In the city of Zdalbyanovo, Rovnoy region, Ukraine, a Ukrainian soldier and defender of Azovstal Artur Niverchuk was greeted by a crowd after returning from captivity. The soldier, who was in Russian captivity for 884 days, was held in 8 colonies during this time. In October, shortly before his release, a Russian court sentenced him to life imprisonment. The last colony where Artur Niverchuk was held was the Black Dolphin Correctional Facility in the Orenburg region, which is the most severe in conditions for those sentenced to life imprisonment. After returning to Ukraine, the soldier returned to his hometown after undergoing rehabilitation. Local residents, holding posters welcoming the soldier, greeted him with the Ukrainian anthem and chanting slogans.
The longer Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine continues, the less often headlines in various media are filled with stories about Russians torturing Ukrainians from the occupied territories. This may continue even if Kiev agrees to a ceasefire next year, but without returning all the occupied territories under its control. This opinion was expressed by European commentary editor Tony Barber in his column for the Financial Times. The journalist recalled that in November, the body of the mayor of the Russian-occupied city of Dnepro-Rudnoy, Yevgeny Matveyev, was returned to Ukraine. The occupiers tortured him in captivity and did not officially announce the cause of death. Also in September, 27-year-old Ukrainian journalist Victoria Roshchina died in Russian captivity, Barber added. The journalist emphasized that she bravely covered the living conditions in the Russian-controlled territories of Ukraine. Growing war fatigue in Ukraine and a desire among some Western governments to end the fighting could allow Putin to retain de facto, if not de jure, control over his gains, Barber said. The journalist compared the subsequent fate of the occupied territories with Western Ukraine and the Baltic states, which were captured by Joseph Stalin during World War II and incorporated into the USSR. Barber recalled the words of the Special Rapporteur on Russia at the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mariana Katsarova, who said that hundreds of Ukrainian prisoners, including civilians and prisoners of war, are forcibly transferred to Russian-occupied territories of Ukraine or deported to the Russian Federation, where they are held incommunicado. The journalist also emphasized that there are credible reports of war crimes and human rights violations from Ukrainian NGOs, the media, and even from the Russian Federation itself. For example, in November, a military court in Rostov-on-Don sentenced 2 Russian soldiers to life imprisonment for the murder of a Ukrainian family of 9, including 2 children in the occupied city of Volnovakha. In addition, the occupiers are abducting Ukrainian children, Baba added. He recalled that Russian dictator Vladimir Putin signed a decree according to which children from the occupied territories of Ukraine can quickly obtain Russian citizenship. This led to the International Criminal Court issuing an arrest warrant for the head of the Kremlin and the Commissioner for Children's Rights in Russia, Maria Lvova-Belova. According to the Ukrainian website Children of War, almost 20,000 children from Ukraine were deported or forcibly displaced by Russians, the journalist noted. Baba also noted that the temporarily occupied Crimea was also subjected to harsh Russification. He added that the Crimean Tatar minority was subjected to particularly ruthless treatment. The journalist emphasized that after Russia annexed the peninsula in 2014, about 20,000 people moved from it to mainland Ukraine. Another 10,000 people left the country in 2022 after the start of a full-scale Russian invasion. Baba also recalled how Stalin deported the entire Crimean Tatar population from their homeland in 1944. He noted that tens of thousands of people died en route to Central Asia and Siberia. Poles, Balts, and other minorities suffered similar horrors. The journalist explained that it is for these reasons that many Ukrainians, as well as residents of Central and Eastern Europe, are disgusted by the idea of leaving Putin in control of the captured territories. The North Korean military became allies of the Russian Federation in vain. The only thing they got when they got into the war was constant losses. Thus, on December the 20th alone, one of the groups of the DPRK military lost 5 soldiers of the 300s, but the Russian officers were indifferent to the problems of foreigners, so the order was given to hold the positions. This was reported by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense. The above-mentioned success of the Ukrainian armed forces was not the last one. On the same day, they managed to hit a mortar crew of the DPRK military. The failures of Kim Jong-un's soldiers in the Kursk region continued on December the 20th and near the settlement of Novoivanovka, where they suffered significant losses of 200s and 300s. On December the 21st, Russian troops attempted to improve the situation of the North Koreans by delivering new ammunition and food supplies. On December the 22nd, Ukrainian defenders bombed a communication center, making radio communication within the DPRK units problematic. The losses of the DPRK army in the war against Ukraine are already several hundred killed, wounded and missing, an employee of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense tells Liganet media outlet. North Korean soldiers are still not ready for the Ukrainian war. People who grew up in an authoritarian state filled with tales of the 1950 to 1953 Korean War were suddenly forced far from home in the conditions of modern, brutal, high-tech warfare, the intelligence officer explains. But it would be a mistake to assume that North Korea is not a capable adversary. Chun In-bum, a retired South Korean Army lieutenant general and expert on Korean politics and military relations, tells. North Korean soldiers are learning, and when they gain enough experience, they will pose a problem not only for Ukraine or South Korea. We learned details of where, how, and with what soldiers from North Korea are fighting for Russia. Russia uses people from North Korea specifically for meat assaults, following the Russian example, a source at the military intelligence tells Liganet. Disoriented DPRK soldiers are concentrated in small groups of up to 20 to 30 soldiers each time in one place, from where, on command, a desperate offensive begins. Ignorance of the localities, the realities of this war, and the Russian language contribute to the misunderstanding that the Koreans are going to certain death.